よし、巻き割りおしまい。腹減ったな。
On December 3rd, 1984, Dragon Ball's Son Goku was introduced to the public, and over the last 35 years has become one of the most recognizable and prolific characters of the modern age. From TV shows to commercials to blockbuster movies, from video games to parades to being the mascot for the 2020 Olympic Games. You would assume for one to accrue such incredible success, said character would need to be widely accepted as a good one, or at least a well-written one. However, nowadays, there's a strongly held belief that if a character doesn't develop or grow from an experience, then that character in question is a poorly written one. Therefore, to test this theory, a while back I posted a poll on my Twitter asking the question, if given the choice between Goku and Vegeta, who do you prefer and why? And while it was close, with over 4,000 votes cast, Vegeta won, with the majority of people who voted for Vegeta bolstering their choice by arguing Vegeta has grown and changed a considerable amount over his character arc. Goku has no arc. He remains the same. While most of this statement is technically correct, this led me to believe that on a fundamental narrative level, the character of Son Goku is deeply misunderstood by an enormous portion of the viewership because Goku does have a character arc. He is a terrific example of what writers call the flat character arc. In 2016, K.M. Weiland published a book called Creating Character Arcs, in which she describes 3 character arc methods. The positive character arc. This is the most common character arc found in fiction, where the character undergoes a positive change. The negative character arc, where the character undergoes a negative change. And finally, the flat character arc, which we will be discussing in this video. In order to make sense of the flat character arc, it's important to understand the most common arc in storytelling first, the positive character arc, in which the character in question spends their entire journey overcoming a specific lie they hold to be true. Weiland calls this scriptwriting trope the lie the character believes. A wonderful example of this positive character arc is observed with the character of Vegeta. For his entire existence, Vegeta has been someone who believed that power was the only important thing in life, and to pursue anything else would be a fool's errand. This was the lie Vegeta believed, and throughout his life, this lie was reinforced by the world around him. Through pursuing this end, Vegeta sacrifices everything to achieve his goal. It's his belief in this lie that leads him to die on planet Namek. When faced with the reality his choices have led him to, he crumbles and ultimately falls. Vegeta's lie was that he believed the only value to be found in life was through the pursuit of power, and his arc was about the journey he took in order to overcome this lie and to embrace what was actually true, to find value in those he loved. And in that moment, the viewer and Vegeta share a much-needed catharsis. As Weiland writes, the positive character arc is about the lie the character believes, which he will spend the entire journey overcoming. However, unlike the positive character arc, which tells the story based on a lie the character believes, the flat character arc is about the truth the character believes. In the flat character arc, the protagonist already has a handle on what the truth is, and he will use that truth to overcome the challenges of the plot, and probably to transform a lie-burdened world. One of the defining features of the flat arc is that the character begins his journey already believing in a certain truth. Son Goku is an enthusiastic, innocent, and motivated person who believes that he can always be better today than he is tomorrow. And not in a diminishing or deprecating way, he thrives on knowing he can be better tomorrow than he is today. And these ideals have not changed since he was first introduced to us in the mid-80s. To help prove that I'm not making these points up, here are some other characters that fit this mold too. Forrest Gump is an honest, compassionate, and determined individual who wants to find and be with the person he loves, Jenny. And from the beginning of the film to the end, his outlook on life never falters, reflected in the famous quote, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get until you take that first bite." Indiana Jones is a determined and courageous man who believes in doing what is right. From the outset, these are what his ideals are, and what makes his story compelling isn't how he changes, but how the world around him reacts to these characteristics he possesses. Saitama is an infinitely powerful but otherwise ordinary guy with strong morals and ideals for what he thinks a hero should be. Bored by conventional crime fighting, he yearns for the thrill of a real challenge. And despite never actually getting that, his personality and ideals don't waver. He is human, but he is also a real hero. What I find personally interesting about all of these characters is none of them are really praised or remembered for being great characters. Instead, people will often say Forrest Gump is an amazing movie, or that One Punch Man was a great TV series. However, a fundamental difference between Forrest Gump and One Punch Man is that one is a movie and the other is a television show. Rarely will you see someone say that the character Forrest Gump is a bad one, but people will flat out dismiss One Punch Man on its main character's very premise alone. Partially, I think the length of a TV series versus a movie plays a large factor here. People expect and desire a TV show's characters to grow and develop over the series in order to justify its long length. Specific emphasis is put on shows like Dragon Ball, Naruto, or One Piece because their theme is centered around self-improvement. Whereas in a film, it's not as noticeable if their characters don't develop over the course of its runtime. If we look closely at the character of Son Goku, we observe from the very beginning of the show his character is fundamentally at odds with the story and world around him. This is a writing technique specifically used for characters that utilize a flat arc. And so while Goku himself believes the truth from the outset, pretty much all those he interacts with believes a lie. And the intrigue for the journey comes from Goku's sensibilities changing the world around him for the better. For example, or if you want an even earlier example, here's this. Despite Master Roshi having taken a considerable amount of his life to perfect the Kamehameha, Goku managed to learn it with relative ease. However, the most noticeable example of Goku changing the world around him using the truth he has is right here. On top of changing the world around him, he also changes the supporting cast for the better too. Characters like Master Roshi are now retired because Goku is now the new savior of the Earth. Characters like Tenshinhan, Piccolo, and Vegeta have changed from bad to good because of his actions. The reason why Goku remains the focus of Dragon Ball is due to one simple fact. Goku is Dragon Ball. Everything that happens in Dragon Ball is due to this character, and it can't be any other way. So let me explain why. Goku's character is ideal for a long-running show because unlike Vegeta and Piccolo, his arc doesn't have an expiry date. Vegeta's character was praised in its climax, but because the show wanted to continue, his development had to be altered and slightly retconned at the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, during which they had to repeat certain key scenes to invoke a similar reaction from the fanbase. The same can be said for Piccolo, jumping in front of Gohan blocking a blast during the Resurrection F arc. It's just not the same, because as the show reflects, his time in the sun is over. On a much more real level, Gohan's story is absolutely over. It ended at Cell. That was the coming of age moment and nothing he can do will ever top that, unless they drastically revamp, reinvent, or retcon his character. But unlike Vegeta, Piccolo, and Gohan, Goku is not restricted by such conventions due to the nature of his story arc. Because Goku doesn't need to change or grow from an experience, the intrigue when he interacts with a character or situation comes from how the world or that character reacts to Goku. So technically, Goku and characters like Goku that implement the flat arc have as much intrigue as the world around them does. And as I'm sure many writers would tell you, it's much easier to create interesting tasks and worlds for Goku to explore than it would be for someone to write another way for Vegeta to swallow his pride and for us to care about it. The point that I'm trying to make here is, despite his unwavering sensibilities, Goku has remained engaging throughout. Specifically when he is written by Akira Toriyama, who understood that the character of Goku needed to have a flat arc if he wanted to have the flexibility to write a week-to-week manga chapter. Goku is a flexible, engaging character because he utilizes the flat character arc. And that is why this particular arc has value. And so, with the stigma nowadays claiming that Goku is a boring character because he has no personal development, I feel compelled to say, no. That's not a fair assessment at all. On top of the positive character arc being the most common arc in character writing, and one of the most noticeable, it also seems to be the only one given any spotlight at all. Rarely does someone talk about a negative character arc, which would be observed with characters like Light Yagami from Death Note, or even Zamasu from Dragon Ball Super. This is when a character goes from a good or benign standing to that of a villain or changes for the worse. Even a flat arc like Goku's can be subdivided into categories. Goku is a positive flat arc, and an example of a negative flat arc can be observed with characters like Frieza, who are evil to the core, unwavering, manipulating the world around them instead of the world changing them. This is part of the reason why Frieza and Goku's interactions are so compelling, because they are both steadfast in their beliefs. I am certainly not trying to claim that one character arc is superior to the other, but merely pointing out certain advantages the flat arc might have over the others because of its design. So, just to reiterate, Dragon Ball cannot be Dragon Ball without Goku. And while wonderful characters like Piccolo and Vegeta are thrilling and fun to watch, I think it's important to acknowledge that Goku's character has value too, but in a vastly different way. I hope that having listened to this video that some of you out there might have found and uncovered a new appreciation for his character. I hope that you can look at character arcs in a different way now, and I hope that someday Son Goku won't be considered a misunderstood character. Thank you for watching.